A United States federal appeals court has rejected the Trump administration's practice of subjecting most people arrested in its immigration crackdown to mandatory detention without the opportunity to seek release on bond. In a 3-0 ruling on Tuesday, a panel of the New York-based U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit said the administration relied on a novel but incorrect interpretation of a decades-old immigration law to justify the policy.
Among the most interesting parts of Elon Musk's testimony Tuesday in his lawsuit against OpenAI wasn't the charity he claims was stolen from him. We all knew that was coming. It was about an old friend. Musk testified that one of his core motivations for co-founding OpenAI was a falling out with Google's Larry Page over AI safety, specifically a conversation in which Musk raised the prospect of AI wiping out humanity, and Page shrugged it off as fine, so long as AI itself survived. Page called Musk a specious for being pro-human. Musk called the attitude insane.
And Indian magnate Anand Ambani, son of billionaire Mukesh Ambani, has offered to take in at his wildlife sanctuary in India 80 cocaine hippos currently living in Colombia, where the government is planning to cull them. The hippos are descended from animals to the country in the 1980s by Pablo Escobar, one of Colombia's top drug lords, who sought to have one of the largest private zoos in Latin America with a wide variety of animals. And former FBI Director James Comey has again been indicted by the United States Department of Justice, this time over a social media post that officials have said constituted a threat to President Donald Trump. The indictment on Tuesday comes after an earlier Justice Department criminal case against Comey fell apart last year.
With the United States-Israeli war on Iran entering its 60th day, experts warn that there is no end in sight as negotiations continue to be stalled amid soaring oil prices and inflation. The US and Israel launched their attack on Iran on February 28. Trump retaliated by closing off the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow channel linking the Gulf to the Gulf of Oman, through which approximately 20% of the world's oil and gas exports pass from the Middle East, mainly to Asia and also to Europe.
And Elon Musk has taken the stand at a high-stakes trial over the future of OpenAI, casting his lawsuit against the ChatGPT maker as a defense of charitable giving. The world's richest person is suing OpenAI and its co-founder and chief executive officer, Sam Altman, and its president, Greg Brockman, and said on the stand on Tuesday that they betrayed him and the public by abandoning OpenAI's mission to be a benevolent steward of AI for humanity and transforming the non-profit into a profit-seeking juggernaut.
Britain's King Charles III has used a speech in front of the United States Congress to pledge NATO unity and call for support for Ukraine amid Russia's ongoing invasion. The address on Tuesday came during the royals' 4-day visit to the US, with the US-Israel war with Iran, US President Donald Trump's criticism of NATO, and trade tensions between the longtime allies looming large.
And Kavicha Kvaratskhelia and Ousmane Dembele scored twice each as Paris Saint-Germain beat Bayern Munich 5-4 in an epic first leg of their Champions League semi-final, an extraordinary encounter that became the highest scoring match ever at this stage of the competition. The first half alone on Tuesday night was wild, with Harry Kane giving Bayern the lead from a penalty only for Kvaratskhelia to equalise before João Neves headed the hosts in front at an enthralled Park des Princes.
Nearly 8 million people in South Sudan are at risk of acute hunger as conflict and displacement worsen an already dire humanitarian crisis. According to a United Nations report published on Tuesday, the report warns that 7.8 million people in the West African country will suffer high levels of food insecurity in the coming months, equivalent to 56% of the population. Northern Irish police have made an arrest after the nationalist group New IRA claimed responsibility for a car bomb attack on a Belfast police station. The police service of Northern Ireland on Tuesday said a 66-year-old man was arrested under the United Kingdom's Terrorism Act, and searches were ongoing in both east and west of Belfast. Sectarian pressures have been building recently in the UK-controlled territory, 28 years after political agreement put an end to decades of violence.
US intelligence agencies are studying how Iran would respond if President Donald Trump were to declare a unilateral victory in the two-month-old war that has killed thousands and become a political liability for the White House. Two US officials and a person familiar with the matter said the intelligence community is analyzing the question along with others at the request of senior administration officials. The goal is to understand the implications of Trump potentially pulling back from a conflict that some officials and advisors worry could contribute to deep Republican losses at the midterm elections later this year, according to the sources.
And an Indian billionaire's son has offered to help Colombia get rid of a problem it has grappled with for years. A herd of hippos linked to notorious drug lord Pablo Escobar, who was shot dead by police in 1993, illegally imported exotic animals, including a male and a female hippopotamus, dubbed the cocaine hippos.
A trial pitting two founders of OpenAI, Sam Altman and Elon Musk, against each other has opened in California, with the sides presenting dueling narratives about the company's history and obligations to consumers. Musk, wearing a dark suit and tie, was asked by one of his lawyers what the lawsuit was about when he took the stand.
European lawmakers have voted in favour of defining sex without active consent as rape, marking a historic step for women's rights and survivors of sexual violence in the EU. The European Parliament's resolution, passed on Tuesday by an overwhelming margin, urges all EU member states to adopt an only yes means yes legal standard for consent, while recognising that a yes obtained through coercion is not valid. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has accused Israel of knowingly allowing grain stolen by Russia to be unloaded at Israeli ports, threatening to impose sanctions on anyone involved in the shipments, which Kyiv says have continued despite multiple appeals to Israeli officials. Zelensky's warning Tuesday reflects a deepening rift between the two countries, brought to a head by the arrival in Israeli waters of a vessel named Panamitis, which entered Haifa Bay last week and is currently anchored offshore, apparently awaiting a berth. Ukraine says the ship is carrying wheat stolen from occupied Ukrainian territories and would be the second such shipment to dock and unload in Haifa this month.
And an Israeli military battalion that assaulted and detained a CNN team in the occupied West Bank has been redeployed after a one-month suspension. An Israeli security source told CNN the reserve unit, which functions under the ultra-Orthodox Netzer Yehuda battalion, underwent an education seminar and additional training, the source said. According to Israel's army radio, the unit is expected to return to full operation activities in the coming days. And Greek police have arrested an 89-year-old man in connection with a double shooting in Athens that left 5 people injured. The suspect was detained on Tuesday in the city of Patra, more than 200 kilometers, 124 miles west of the capital, following a large manhunt. The suspect had allegedly begun the shooting spree as he opened fire inside a social security agency in the district of Kerameikos in the center of Athens. And the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty is the most extensive arms control agreement in the world. It has 191 signatories and is based on a simple principle. Countries without nuclear weapons won't acquire them, and those that do will give them up.
Washington, D.C., the 60-day mark of the United States and Israel's war with Iran, represents a fork in the road for U.S. lawmakers. Will they assert their authority, either in support or against the conflict, or remain silent? It is a question that experts say lawmakers technically should not have to answer.
And President Donald Trump has hit out at Germany's Friedrich Merz over the Chancellor's criticism of the United States-Israeli war on Iran, stressing that the conflict was necessary to prevent Tehran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. Trump's comment on Tuesday reflected his often expressed frustration with European and NATO allies over their unwillingness to fully back the war or take part in it. And almost as soon as OpenAI announced that its major investor and cloud partner, Microsoft, no longer has exclusive rights to any of its products, Amazon started gloating. After the revised OpenAI-Microsoft agreement was announced on Monday, Amazon CEO Andy Jassy noted in a tweet that it was a very interesting announcement. That agreement solved OpenAI's problem of allowing AWS to offer its products, an issue that crystallized after it signed an up to $50 billion deal with Amazon. Islamabad. Energy prices are projected to surge by 24% this year to their highest level since Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022, as the war in the Middle East sends a severe shock through global commodity markets, and the World Bank Group said in its latest commodity markets outlook. Overall, commodity prices are forecast to rise 16 PC in 2026, driven by soaring energy and fertilizer prices and record high prices for several key metals, and according to the assessment.
Former FBI Director James Comey has been indicted for a second time and will face charges brought by the US Department of Justice. Multiple sources told the BBC's US partner CBS News the specific charges are not known, but the sources said they relate to an image Comey briefly shared on Instagram last year that showed seashells forming the numbers 8647.
Nepali mountaineers have cleared a route past a huge chunk of ice on Mount Everest that has blocked climbers from moving up past base camp for 2 weeks. Ram Krishna Lamishain, Nepal's Director General of Tourism, told the BBC that icefall doctors had now fixed ropes up to Camp 2, located at roughly 6,400 to 6,500 meters, 21,000 to 21,325 feet high.
And the United Arab Emirates. UAE is quitting the OPEC and OPEC Plus groups of major oil-producing nations next month after nearly 60 years of membership. The UAE said its decision would help it meet growing global energy demand in the long term after recent investments to boost its production capacity.
The United Arab Emirates has announced its withdrawal from OPEC and the wider OPEC Plus framework, removing a core pillar of one of the most influential groups in the energy world, the Gulf country, with a capacity of approximately 4.8 million barrels per day and significant room to increase output, announced on Tuesday that it would quit the organization to focus on national interests.
And Mali's military leader, Assimi Goïta, has met the Russian ambassador to the East African country. According to his office, Goïta's office published photos of the meeting on Tuesday in what was his first public appearance since rebel attacks over the weekend that killed one of his ministers.
Google has granted the US Department of Defense access to its AI for classified networks, essentially allowing all lawful uses, according to multiple news reports. This deal follows Anthropic's public stand against the Trump administration after the model maker refused to grant the DoD the same terms. The Pentagon wanted unrestricted use of AI, whereas Anthropic wanted guardrails to prevent its AI from being used for domestic mass surveillance and autonomous weapons.
Match Group, the dating app behemoth that owns Match, Tinder, OkCupid and Hinge, says that it has invested $100 million in yet another mobile service designed to bring people together, a Grindr competitor known as Sneffies. The website for Sniffies sports various images of men in their underwear. That tells you pretty much all you need to know about the app, which is a self-proclaimed cruising or hookup matching service for gay men. The app includes what it calls a real-time, fully interactive map of nearby cruisers and popular local cruising spots.
Amazon launched a new AI-powered feature on Tuesday that allows users to ask questions about products and receive conversational audio responses generated in real time. The responses are delivered by what the company calls AI-powered shopping experts, which present information in a natural discussion-style format. The new Join the Chat feature aims to save customers time by providing key product details without requiring them to scroll through lengthy descriptions or reviews. The AI pulls together insights about product features, customer feedback, and other relevant information. For example, shoppers can ask questions like whether a coffee maker is suited for beginners or whether a sweater feels itchy based on customer reviews.